It was a bright Saturday afternoon, and the countryside hotel was dressed in gold and white for one of the biggest weddings of the year. The gardens shimmered under the sunlight. Guests in designer suits and elegant gowns laughed near the fountains, and every table was covered in fresh roses. Among the busy staff rushing in and out of the grand hall was a young black waitress named Alina. She balanced a tray of champagne glasses carefully, her face calm even though her feet had been aching since morning. For Alina, this wasn't just another shift. It was her chance to earn enough tips to cover her brother's college books. She had been working at the hotel for 2 years now. The job wasn't easy, but she was proud of it. Every morning she told herself that hard work was the only way forward. Inside the kitchen, chaos ruled. Chefs shouted orders, waiters ran in and out, and the manager kept reminding everyone, "Remember, this is a high-profile wedding. We can't afford any mistakes." The bride was the daughter of a billionaire businesswoman named Mrs. Kellen, a woman known for her expensive taste and her temper. She wasn't easy to please. Alina had heard stories about her before. Some staff said she could fire an entire catering team over a single mistake. Others said she never smiled, even on her happiest days. Alina tried not to think about it too much. She just wanted to serve the guests, finish her shift, and go home to her small apartment where her younger brother was waiting with leftover pizza and stories about his new college life. By early evening, the wedding guests started arriving. Expensive cars lined up outside the hotel gates, the sound of laughter mixed with the string music echoing across the hall. Alina moved from table to table, filling glasses and checking napkins, making sure everything looked perfect. When Mrs. Kellen arrived, everyone seemed to stiffen. She was wearing a glittering silver dress and diamond earrings that caught every light in the room. Her presence felt heavy, the kind that made even confident people nervous. She began giving orders right away, her tone sharp and commanding. "Move that table closer to the stage," she said. "And who placed these flowers here?" "They're not centered." The staff hurried to fix everything, but nothing seemed good enough for her. When she turned and saw Alina arranging napkins on the corner table, she frowned. "You come here," she said, her voice cold. Alina quickly walked over, keeping her posture straight. "Yes, ma'am?" "Who told you to arrange the tablecloth like that?" "It looks uneven," the woman snapped. Alina glanced down. It looked fine to her, perfectly neat. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I followed the setup from the list." Mrs. Kellen crossed her arms. "Don't talk back. Just fix it." Alina quietly adjusted it again, even though there was nothing wrong with it. The guests nearby pretended not to notice, but she could feel their eyes on her. Her cheeks grew warm, and she forced herself to keep her head down. As she turned to leave, she heard Mrs. Kellen mutter under her breath, "People should know their place." The words hit her harder than she expected. Alina bit her lip and kept walking. She had faced rude customers before, but something about the woman's tone made her chest tighten. She went back to the kitchen, pretending to check on the appetizers just to have a moment alone. Her friend Sam, another waiter, noticed her face. "You okay?" he asked. Alina nodded. "Yeah, just tired." He smiled faintly. "She's known for yelling. Don't take it personal. Let her be miserable in her fancy dress." That made her laugh softly, easing some of the tension. "You're terrible," she said, shaking her head. "Maybe. But remember, you're better than this chaos," he said. When Alina went back into the hall, the ceremony was about to start. The bride walked down the aisle looking radiant, and for a few moments everyone forgot about stress. Even Alina found herself smiling as the couple exchanged vows. For a short while, everything felt peaceful, but peace didn't last long. During the dinner service, a guest accidentally knocked over a glass of champagne. The liquid spilled near the bride's table. Before anyone could react, Mrs. Kellen turned sharply toward Alina, who happened to be standing closest. "What are you doing?" she shouted. "Can't you even carry a tray without making a mess?" The hall went silent. Music stopped. Guests stared. Alina froze. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I didn't—" "Don't argue with me," the woman interrupted. "This is my daughter's wedding, not a training camp for careless workers. You're ruining everything." The sting of humiliation burned through Alina. Her throat tightened, but she didn't let tears fall. Instead, she quietly took a napkin and began cleaning up the spill. The guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, whispering to each other. One of them, an older man in a dark suit, watched closely. frowning at how cruelly the woman was behaving. He reached into his pocket and started recording on his phone, his face full of disapproval. When Alina finished cleaning, she stepped back and said softly, "It's all taken care of." "Ma'am," Mrs. Kellen waved her hand dismissively, "just get out of my sight. I don't want to see you near the front tables again." Alina nodded, placed the tray down, and walked back toward the kitchen, her heart pounding. Behind the swinging doors, she finally exhaled. Her manager approached her immediately. "What happened?" Alina shook her head. "Nothing." "She thought I spilled the drink. I saw it," the manager said quietly. "It wasn't your fault." "I know," Alina replied, trying to smile. "But it doesn't matter. I'll just finish my shift." The rest of the evening moved slowly. Every laugh and cheer from the ballroom felt distant to her now. She focused on small tasks, refilling trays, helping the dishwashers, folding napkins, but her mind kept replaying the moment when the billionaire had yelled at her in front of everyone. She had always believed in treating people kindly, no matter who they were. But that night she realized how quickly kindness could be mistaken for weakness. Still, she refused to let bitterness take root in her heart. Around midnight, after most of the guests had left, Alina stepped outside for a breath of air. The hotel lights glowed softly behind her, and the night breeze carried the faint sound of music. She leaned against the railing, looking up at the sky. It was filled with stars, quiet and still, far away from the noise of the world. She thought about her mother's words, how she used to tell her, "Dignity doesn't come from money, it comes from how you carry yourself when no one is kind to you." Alina smiled faintly at the memory. Maybe this night would just be another story she'd tell one day, another reminder to keep going. When she returned to the kitchen, the cleaning crew was finishing up. Plates clattered, laughter echoed as the tired workers joked about the guests. Alina joined them, pretending everything was fine. The older man who had recorded the incident earlier walked by the kitchen door on his way out. He paused, looked at her, and said quietly, "You handled that with more grace than she deserved." Alina blinked in surprise. "Thank you, sir," he nodded. "People remember how you treat others. Don't let her words stay with you." Those words stayed with her more than he probably realized. As she changed back into her casual clothes later that night, she looked in the mirror and whispered, "You did your best." It was almost 2 a.m. when she finally stepped outside. The parking lot was empty except for a few cars. She walked toward the bus stop with her small bag over her shoulder. Her paycheck would come next week, and she hoped the tips from this long shift would help her cover her brother's expenses. Little did she know. This night, the humiliation, the shouting, the quiet tears was just the beginning. The same woman who had yelled at her in front of hundreds would soon find herself in a situation that would flip everything upside down. And the very waitress she had insulted would become the reason her name made headlines across the country. But for now, Alina just sat at the bus stop, tired but calm, unaware of the twist waiting ahead. Somewhere inside, she still believed that doing the right thing would always matter. That belief, though small and quiet, was about to change her life in ways she couldn't imagine. The next morning, Alina woke up with heavy eyes and sore feet. The wedding shift had drained every bit of her energy. Her little brother was already up, sitting on the couch with his books spread across the coffee table. When she entered the room, he looked up and smiled. "Morning, sis. You got home late last night. How did it go?" Alina smiled faintly and placed her bag down. "It was fine. Just a long night." He noticed the tired look on her face. "You sure? You look like someone yelled at you again." She laughed softly. "You know me too well." Her brother didn't press for details. He knew her job wasn't easy, but he also knew how much she cared about it. She walked over to the kitchen and poured herself some tea. The memory of the woman's angry voice still echoed in her head, but she didn't want to start her day with bitterness. "It's okay," she whispered to herself. "It's just one bad day." After breakfast, she checked her phone and saw a message from the hotel manager asking her to come in for a quick meeting. That made her nervous. She wondered if the billionaire woman had complained about her. Taking a deep breath, she got ready and left for work. When she arrived, the hotel was unusually quiet. Most of the wedding staff were cleaning up from last night's event. Decorations were being taken down, and the sweet smell of flowers still filled the air. The manager greeted her at the front desk. "Hey, Alina, thanks for coming." Don't worry, it's nothing bad. She felt a small wave of relief. Oh, thank goodness, she said with a little laugh. He motioned for her to sit. Listen, I wanted to talk about what happened last night. Everyone saw how unfair that woman was to you. You handled yourself really well. Alina smiled shyly. I just didn't want to cause more drama. That's exactly why we all respect you, he said. By the way, one of the guests recorded the whole scene. It's already going around online. People are calling her behavior cruel. Her eyes widened. Wait, what? Someone recorded it? He nodded. Yeah, it's been shared a few times already. Some people recognized who she is. You didn't do anything wrong, so you don't need to worry. But if anyone contacts you, just stay professional. Alina's stomach turned a little. She didn't like attention, especially not from something like this. I didn't mean for any of that to happen, she said softly. I know, but maybe something good will come out of it, he said kindly. Now go take the rest of the day off. You've earned it. She thanked him and walked out, her mind spinning. As she stepped outside into the sunlight, she wondered how fast things could change. Last night, she was just another tired waitress. Today, her name might be attached to a viral video. Meanwhile, at the other side of town, Mrs. Kellen sat in her luxurious living room with her morning coffee. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her assistant rushed in and said nervously, Ma'am, there's a video online of you from the wedding last night. What video? She asked sharply. It's, not good, the assistant replied. It shows you yelling at one of the waitresses. People are saying it was uncalled for. The billionaire's face hardened. She grabbed the phone and watched the short clip. In it, she saw herself shouting angrily while the young waitress stood silently, trying not to cry. The comments were flooding in. Some people called her heartless, others said money had made her lose her humanity. Who posted this? She demanded. We're still checking, ma'am, but it's spreading fast. News outlets might pick it up soon. She set the phone down slowly. For the first time, she felt something she wasn't used to, shame. She'd built her reputation on power and perfection, but now people were seeing a side of her she didn't want to admit existed. Later that afternoon, Alina decided to stop by the hotel again to collect her leftover tips. As she walked through the lobby, she noticed people whispering and glancing her way. It made her nervous until one of her coworkers smiled and said, You're famous now. She frowned. What do you mean? The video, he said. People are calling you the calm waitress. You stayed so respectful while she was yelling. Everyone's talking about it. Alina didn't know how to feel. Part of her was embarrassed, but another part of her was quietly proud that she hadn't lost her temper. I just did what felt right, she said softly. That night when she got home, her brother showed her the same video. Sis, look at this. You're all over social media. She sighed, covering her face with her hands. Oh no, I didn't want anyone to see that. But look at the comments, he said, scrolling through them. Everyone's saying how polite and strong you were. People are on your side. Alina smiled faintly, though she still felt uneasy about all the attention. She just wanted to go back to her normal life, away from drama and online noise. Over the next few days, the story only grew bigger. News outlets picked it up, calling it the wedding outburst. Photos of the luxury event were everywhere. Some reporters even tried to find Alina to interview her, but she refused politely. She didn't want fame. She wanted peace. On the other hand, Mrs. Kellen's public image began to crumble. Her company's PR team was in damage control mode. But every attempt to justify her behavior only made things worse. Investors started questioning her leadership, and charities she supported began distancing themselves quietly. At first, she tried to ignore it, thinking it would blow over. But after a few more days, she couldn't escape it. Her daughter, the bride, came to her and said softly, Mom, maybe you should apologize. That girl didn't deserve it. The billionaire frowned. You're defending her? Her daughter nodded. I saw it too, Mom. She wasn't rude. She was just doing her job. For a moment, silence filled the room. Mrs. Kellen looked out the window, her reflection staring back at her. She didn't like what she saw. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Alina went back to her routine. She worked the breakfast shift, smiling at guests, helping in the kitchen, pretending everything was normal. But deep down, she worried. What if the billionaire tried to get her fired? What if this viral moment ruined her career? Late one evening, as she was wiping down tables, her manager came up to her with a strange look. Alina, someone's here to see you, he said. Who? She asked, confused. You'll see, he said. leading her toward the private dining room. When the door opened, she froze. Sitting there, dressed simply this time, was Mrs. Kellen. The same woman who had yelled at her in front of hundreds now sat quietly with a cup of tea. Alina's heart started racing. "Ma'am?" she said carefully. The billionaire stood up. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then in a low voice, Mrs. Kellen said, "I came to apologize." Alina blinked, unsure she heard correctly. What?" "I was wrong," the woman continued. "I lost my temper that night. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way." The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Alina didn't know what to say. She had imagined many things could happen, but not this. "Thank you," she said finally. "That means a lot." The woman nodded slowly. "I've learned something from all this. You were more professional than I was, and I respect that." Before Alina could reply, the woman reached into her bag and took out a small envelope. "Please accept this as a token of apology." Alina looked down at it but didn't take it. "I appreciate it, ma'am, but I don't need anything. You saying sorry is enough." For the first time, the billionaire actually smiled, a small, genuine smile. "You remind me of the kind of person I used to be before money made me forget what respect looks like." After a short conversation, she left quietly. Alina stood there, still processing what had just happened. Her coworkers peeked from the hallway, their mouths open in surprise. That night, Alina went home feeling lighter. She didn't know what the future held, but something in her heart told her this wasn't the end of their story. Life had a way of turning moments of pain into unexpected blessings. What she didn't realize was that the apology was just the beginning. Within days, the billionaire would return again, but this time not as a critic or a stranger. Something was about to happen that would completely change both of their lives, tying their stories together in a way no one could have predicted. The next few days passed quietly at the hotel. The wedding season was still in full swing, and the staff were busy preparing for another event. Alina tried to keep her head down and focus on her work, but everyone kept talking about the night the billionaire came to apologize. It was still hard for her to believe that the same woman who had shouted at her in front of hundreds of people had later walked into the hotel and said she was sorry. Some of the waiters teased her gently about it. "Looks like you taught her a lesson in kindness," one of them said, smiling. Alina just laughed it off. "I don't think I taught anyone anything," she replied. She probably just felt bad because of the video. But deep down, she hoped maybe it was more than that. Maybe it really did make her think about how she treated people. That afternoon, while Alina was setting up the dining hall for a business meeting, she noticed something shiny under one of the tables. It looked out of place, glinting faintly under the lights. She bent down and picked it up. It was a diamond bracelet, elegant, heavy, and clearly expensive. She looked around, but the hall was empty. Everyone else was in the kitchen. Alina turned the bracelet over in her hand, noticing the tiny initials engraved on the clasp. "EHK." She froze for a second. Those were the same initials she had seen on the news articles about the billionaire Kellen. Her first thought was disbelief. How could this bracelet end up here again? Then she remembered that Mrs. Kellen had attended a business dinner at the same hotel the night before. Without a second thought, Alina walked straight to the front desk and gave the bracelet to the receptionist. "Someone must have dropped this," she said. "It looks very valuable." The receptionist's eyes widened. "Oh my, this must belong to that businesswoman who came yesterday. I'll log it into the lost and found right away." Alina smiled, handed it over, and went back to work. To her, it was simple. Doing the right thing was just part of who she was. The next morning, she arrived at work to find tension in the air. The hotel manager stood by the entrance, speaking urgently on the phone. When he saw her, he motioned for her to come closer. "Alina, you're not going to believe this," he said. "What happened?" she asked. "The billionaire's assistant just called," he said. "Apparently, she lost a diamond bracelet worth almost $500,000. She's furious. She's accusing the staff of stealing it." Alina blinked. "But I turned it in." He microphoned and said, "That's why I'm donating $500,000 to launch the Alina Foundation for Opportunity. Because one woman's honesty reminded me of the person I wanted to be." The crowd applauded again, louder this time. Reporters clicked photos, cameras flashed, and Alina stood there completely overwhelmed. Later that night, after everyone left, the two women sat alone in the now empty hall. The sound of their laughter echoed softly in the big space. "You know," Mrs. Kellen said, sipping her tea, "that $500,000 isn't a bill I expected to pay, but it's the best one I've ever received." Alina laughed through her tears. "I still can't believe all this happened because of one bracelet." The billionaire smiled. "It wasn't the bracelet. It was you. You reminded me what wealth really means." Silence filled the room again, the kind that felt peaceful, not awkward. Both women had changed in their own ways. In the weeks that followed, the story of the Alina Foundation for Opportunity spread across newspapers and television. Many people were touched by how the billionaire had turned a moment of shame into a movement for good. Students from small towns, waiters, cleaners, and single mothers began applying for scholarships. For the first time, Alina saw lives changing right in front of her, and it filled her heart with joy. Her brother, who had just graduated college, joined the program as a volunteer mentor. He often joked, "You started all this just by doing what Mom always told us. I don't take what isn't yours." Every time he said it, Alina smiled. She knew her mother would have been proud. Months later, the foundation's first scholarship recipients were announced. Alina stood beside Mrs. Kellen on stage again, handing certificates to the new students. One young woman hugged her tightly and said, "Because of you, I can go to college. Thank you." That night after the event, Alina walked out to the quiet courtyard where soft lights glowed around the trees. The air was cool and the stars shimmered above. She sat on a bench and looked up, remembering all the nights she'd spent crying behind the kitchen after being shouted at. Now, things were different. She'd found her voice. She'd found purpose. As she sat there, Mrs. Kellen came out to join her. "You know," she said gently, "I used to think I had everything. But that night at my daughter's wedding, I realized I was missing something. Humility." Alina looked at her with a soft smile. "I guess we both learned something we didn't expect." They sat quietly for a while, watching the lights flicker. The billionaire looked peaceful, maybe for the first time in years. Before leaving, she said, "If you ever open that restaurant you dreamed about, I'll be your first customer." Alina laughed. "I'll hold you to that." As the older woman walked away, Alina stayed sitting for a few minutes, breathing in the moment. It was strange how life had turned everything around, from being yelled at in front of hundreds to being honored in front of thousands. She didn't seek revenge. She didn't chase wealth. All she ever wanted was to be respected. And now not only had she gained that respect, but she had also inspired others to believe that kindness can still win. The foundation continued to grow, helping hundreds of young people find opportunities. And every time someone asked Mrs. Kellen how it all began, she would smile and say, "It started with a waitress who returned a bracelet and gave me back my heart." That night, as Alina locked up her office and walked to the bus stop, she looked up at the sky again. The same stars she once cried under now seemed to shine brighter. She smiled quietly to herself, whispering, "It was all worth it." And it truly was. Months had passed since the foundation's first scholarship event, and life for Alina had completely changed. She still worked at the hotel part-time, but her main focus was now on the foundation. Each day she met students from small towns, young people who had dreams bigger than their circumstances, and families who never thought college or proper training would be possible. She helped guide them, encouraged them, and sometimes even offered advice on handling life's unexpected challenges. One quiet afternoon, as Alina was reviewing applications for the next round of scholarships, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mrs. Kellen. "Meet me at the office. Something important to discuss." Alina felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. She wasn't sure what to expect. When she arrived, the billionaire was already there, standing near the large windows looking out at the city. She turned as Alina walked in and smiled softly. "I've been thinking," she began, "about how we can make the foundation even more impactful. But I need your input. You're closer to the students than anyone else. You know their struggles. I want your ideas." Alina felt honored. I don't know what to say. "I'm happy to help." Mrs. Kellen gestured for her to sit. "No, I mean I really want you to lead the next project. We're starting a mentorship program. Not just scholarships, but guidance, career coaching, and even emotional support. I want you to design it." Alina blinked, her mind racing. She thought about all the students she had met so far, How many of them had potential but lacked guidance, and suddenly a wave of excitement filled her. "I can do that," she said, smiling. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Alina met with dozens of students, learning their stories and hopes. Some had parents who worked multiple jobs, some had been on their own since high school, and others had dreams that seemed impossible without help. Every time she listened to them, she thought about her own struggles. The long hours at the hotel, the feeling of being invisible, and the night at the wedding that had changed everything. Mrs. Kellen was involved too, but differently. She would occasionally visit and sit quietly, watching Alina work. She didn't try to give orders or show off her wealth. She simply observed, sometimes asking a thoughtful question or offering advice. It was a different side of her that few people ever saw. One day, as Alina was going through applications in her small office, she heard a knock on the door. It was a young woman holding a folder and looking nervous. "Hi," the woman said softly. "I heard about the foundation and I think I could really use some help." Alina smiled warmly. "Of course. Have a seat." The young woman named Lena told her story. She had worked in a diner since she was 15, helping support her younger siblings. She dreamed of becoming a nurse but had no money for college. Alina listened intently, asking questions and encouraging her. She remembered how she had once been in Lena's shoes, barely making ends meet, feeling like the world was too big to care about her. "You know," Alina said gently, "life has a way of surprising us. Sometimes people come along and change everything, just when you least expect it. And sometimes it's about taking chances." Lena's eyes widened. "Do you think I could really get into nursing school?" Alina smiled. "I know you can, and we'll make sure you have every chance to succeed." Meanwhile, Mrs. Kellen had been quietly observing from the other side of the room. She was impressed. "You have a gift," she whispered to herself, "not just for helping people, but for understanding them." As the mentorship program grew, more students joined, each with their own dreams and struggles. Alina's days became longer, filled with planning sessions, one-on-one meetings, and calls with donors. But she didn't mind. For the first time in her life, she felt truly useful. She was making a real difference, not just in numbers, but in lives. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Alina sat at her desk looking over the progress reports. Her phone buzzed again. It was a text from Mrs. Kellen. "Dinner tonight. Just us, no work. You need a break." Alina hesitated. She wasn't used to being invited anywhere by someone like her, but curiosity got the better of her. That evening, she arrived at a quiet, elegant restaurant. Mrs. Kellen was already there, sitting at a corner table, her expression calm and relaxed. "You came," the billionaire said with a faint smile. "I thought it was polite," Alina replied, feeling a little nervous. Mrs. Kellen laughed softly. "It's not about politeness. It's about celebrating what we've built together. Look at everything you've done for these students." "You've changed lives." Alina shook her head. "I just listened. I just tried to help." "That's the difference," Mrs. Kellen said. "Most people talk, most people promise. You act, that's why this works. And that's why I trust you." They ate in silence for a while, simply enjoying the food and the quiet. Then Mrs. Kellen leaned forward, her voice lower. "You know, that night at the wedding, I kept thinking about you, about how calm you were, how honest, how strong. I've spent years surrounded by people who only care about money and power. Seeing you, it reminded me what really matters." Alina didn't know what to say. She looked down at her hands. "I didn't do it for you," she said softly. "I know," the billionaire replied. "And that's what makes it powerful. That's why I want to keep working with you, not just for the students, but